For nearly a decade, Tony McGill had remained a silent figure in the world of Outlander fandom. While the internet obsessed over Heughan and Caitriona Balfe's legendary chemistry, Tony stayed far from interviews, rarely appearing at events, and never entertaining the rumors that swirled endlessly around his wife and her co-star. That's why the world erupted when he suddenly appeared in a televised interview, calm, composed, and sitting under bright studio lights as if he had finally decided the silence had lasted long enough. Even the host looked visibly shocked to have him there. Fans tuned in by the millions, breathless and terrified of what he might say. The interview began innocently enough. Questions about his music career, life in the public eye, and the challenges of staying private while married to someone as recognizable as Caitriona. Tony answered politely, though there was a noticeable tension beneath the surface, as if he knew exactly why most people were watching. Then, halfway through the conversation, the host leaned in with a carefully prepared question, the one every fan had feared and anticipated. "Tony, what are your thoughts on the chemistry between Sam Heughan and Caitriona Balfe?" The room fell silent. Tony froze for a fraction of a second, his expression unreadable. The host seemed to realize she had stepped onto dangerous ground, but the question was already hanging in the air, impossible to ignore. Tony inhaled slowly, his jaw tightening as he weighed his response. For the first time in 10 years, he wasn't dodging. He wasn't laughing it off. He was preparing to answer. Fans on social media began to melt down in real time. Tens of thousands of comments flooded Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. "OMG, he's finally talking about it. Tony is about to spill everything. Someone record this now." Livestream watch parties launched instantly as people braced themselves for the kind of truth that could reshape a decade of speculation. Tony leaned forward, clasping his hands together as he looked directly at the host. "Their chemistry," he began, pausing long enough to make the audience's hearts pound. "It's real." The host's eyes widened, the studio gasped, and social media exploded so violently that several fan accounts crashed under the traffic. Tony didn't backtrack. He didn't soften the statement. He continued calmly, almost surprisingly composed. "Anyone who has watched them together, on set or off, could see it. It was there from day one." The shockwaves were immediate. Clips of Tony's statement circulated with breathtaking speed. Fans began reposting old behind-the-scenes videos with captions like, "Tony just confirmed what we always knew." Others expressed sympathy, wondering how difficult it must have been for him to live in the shadow of such palpable chemistry. Meanwhile, major entertainment outlets scrambled to rewrite articles and publish emergency updates. This wasn't a rumor anymore. This wasn't fanfiction. Tony himself had acknowledged it. But the interview wasn't over. The host, emboldened by Tony's unexpected honesty, asked the next question with caution. "Did that chemistry ever worry you?" she asked gently. The tension in the room spiked. Tony paused, looked down at his hands, and breathed in deeply. When he looked back up, his eyes held a vulnerability no one had seen from him before. "I'd be lying if I said it didn't," he admitted. "When you see a connection like that, you feel it. You notice it. You wonder about it." This revelation sent the fandom into an even deeper spiral. Fans debated wildly, some insisting Tony's openness proved he was comfortable and secure, others believing it hinted at years of hidden emotional struggle. After all, Caitriona and Sam's chemistry had become pop culture legend, the kind of partnership that felt almost too authentic to be just acting. For Tony to acknowledge its impact was something no one had expected. Still, Tony wasn't finished. He sat up straighter, as if deciding to finally reveal the truth he had kept locked away for a decade. "But here's what people don't understand," he continued. "Chemistry doesn't always mean romance. It doesn't always mean love. Sometimes it means two people understand each other on a level that others can't." His voice was steady, but there was a heaviness beneath it, like someone who had worked through this truth slowly and painfully over many years. Fans held their breath as Tony added one more line, one that would send the internet into complete meltdown. "I stayed silent for 10 years, he said softly. But today, I have to say something I've never said before. The host leaned forward, the audience leaned forward, and millions of fans watching online leaned forward as well, hearts pounding. Tony exhaled, eyes dark with emotion. Because hiding the truth is no longer an option. And just like that, he set the stage for a revelation the world was not ready for. The air in the studio thickened as Tony McGill prepared to continue. Viewers could practically hear the tension through their screens, the kind of silence that forms right before something irreversible is said. Even the host seemed to forget she was on camera, watching him with wide, uncertain eyes. Tony lifted his chin slightly, as if gathering the last of his courage. For years, he began slowly, I heard the rumors just like everyone else. He didn't smile. He didn't look amused. Instead, he looked like a man who had carried a story for too long. People said Sam and Caitriona must be in love, he continued. People said no two actors could have chemistry like that unless something was happening behind the scenes. The studio remained silent, holding on to every word. And I'll admit, Tony added, voice dropping to a quiet confession, there were nights when I wondered the same thing. Social media exploded as fans reacted in real time. Some cried for Tony, moved by his honesty. Others couldn't believe he was opening up this deeply. The host hesitated before asking the question everyone was thinking. Did you ever feel threatened by Sam? Tony closed his eyes for a brief moment, then opened them with a sad, reflective expression. Threatened, he repeated softly. No, but intimidated? Yes. The raw vulnerability in his tone stunned the audience. Tony leaned forward slightly, elbows on his knees. Sam, he said with a small exhale. Charming, talented, magnetic. People are drawn to him, men and women. And Caitriona, she connects with him in a way that makes scenes come alive. He paused before adding, it's impossible to ignore. Fans erupted with reactions ranging from heartbreak to admiration. Many said it was the most honest moment Tony had ever shared. But then Tony's tone shifted. Here's the truth no one ever understood, he said. That connection didn't scare me. What scared me was the world's obsession with it. The host blinked, surprised. Tony continued, voice growing steadier with each sentence. People twisted it. People tried to make it something it wasn't. And what hurt the most was watching two people I care about get dragged through narratives that never belonged to them. The fandom froze. Care about? Two people? Tony rarely spoke about his circle, yet here he was, openly including Sam as someone meaningful. The host carefully leaned into her next question. Are you saying you're close to Sam? Tony nodded without hesitation. Closer than people think. He smiled faintly, the first hint of warmth in the entire interview. Sam came to me years ago. He was worried the rumors were affecting Caitriona. He didn't want to cause problems for her marriage. He wanted to be respectful. His voice softened. That's the kind of man he is. The internet exploded again. Fans who had long argued that Sam respected Tony and Caitriona felt vindicated. Others felt emotional, realizing how much pressure all three of them must have endured. Tony continued without pause. We talked privately, he said. And you know what he told me? He said, Tony, whatever people believe, I want you to know I would never cross that line. Tony's expression tightened with emotion. And I believed him. The host swallowed hard before asking, so, how do you personally interpret the chemistry between them? Tony took a long breath, eyes filled with something complicated, admiration, acceptance, and a thin trace of pain. Their chemistry, he said quietly, is real. But it's not romantic. It's not secretive. It's not what people think. He leaned back in his chair, letting the truth settle. It's artistic. It's emotional. It's built on trust, respect, and a level of comfort most actors never reach. But then came the line that sent shockwaves across the world. It's the kind of chemistry, Tony said slowly, that can exist only when two people choose loyalty over temptation. Fans screamed. The host gasped. The clip went viral instantly. Tony wasn't done. He explained that he and Caitriona had spent years discussing her working relationship with Sam, openly, honestly, and without fear. The world turned it into a triangle, he said. But inside our marriage, there was never a triangle. There was understanding. He blinked, eyes shimmering with emotion. And trust. Always trust. For a moment, Tony looked like he might stop there. But he unexpectedly leaned in again, preparing for one final revelation. There's something else I need to say, he whispered. The room tensed. People assume I stayed quiet out of jealousy. They're wrong. I stayed quiet because I knew the truth would only matter when it came from me. The host hesitated. And what truth is that? Tony looked straight into the camera. My fear, he said softly, was never that Caitriona would fall in love with Sam, but that Sam would one day leave her life, and she would lose someone who has been her anchor for 10 years. The world fell silent. Fans couldn't breathe. Clips of Tony's final statement surged across the internet at impossible speed. And in that moment, one thing became clearer than ever. The bond between Caitriona and Sam wasn't a scandal. It was a connection so deep that even Tony McGill had learned to respect, honor, and protect it.